Good morning. Is this thing on? All right. First of all, this is the obligatory part of the presentation where I thank everybody for coming here. So thank you for coming here. But really, honest to goodness, thank you for coming here. As I look around, this is
Nice turnout.
better than I could have expected, and it's early yet. And if you're like me and you're not much of a morning person, then an extra thank you. Really and truly appreciate that. We are going to talk about, can technology save you money? And I have to confess here, well, a couple of confessions. Let's call them ground rules. Number one, I can't stand still and I can't read from a script. I wing it, and so I want you to be okay with that. Is that all right? All right.
Confession number 2, I didn't want to be as Parker.
She's tried to pawn this whole thing off on me, but we make a good team, I hope. But confession number 3 is that neither one of us are the least bit financial in nature. We're not CFOs, we're not accountants, we just aren't.
We're not good with numbers.
No, frankly, I had to take algebra 3 times. True story.
I remember.
Yeah, you remember? How do you remember that? You don't remember that. I'm Braden Nicholson. I'm the director of the Client Solution Center at Sensory Technologies. And I recognize a lot of these faces. It took me a second with you. I gotta hold it up closer. All right. But I've recognized all of your names. I'm watching you interact with us, and I hope we've done a good job for you.
I'm Stephanie Stilson. I do not have a tech background whatsoever. I'm actually a psychologist. My passion is how we use technology to enhance our business environments. And I think that's where true investment sometimes happens.
Right, I agree. So this presentation's been broken up into 3 different pieces. And so I'd sort of like to skip past the can tech save you money part, focus on measuring ROI, managing assets, and embracing technology. And Stephanie did sort of a straw poll here to figure out which flavor the majority of you fit in. What were the results? Where do we need to focus?
Third, I think. We have some managing investment interest. We have some ROI. Didn't get a chance to speak with you. And I think embracing ought to come in. So let's do about a third.
Okay. And when we can, let's keep it conversational. Let's get some input, and maybe we'll ask some direct questions. But let's jump right into this. I didn't start my timer. What time did we start?
About 20 after. We'll be good.
All right. So, just raise a show of hands. Are you required to justify your technology investments? It's a broad question, I know, but you buy something and your boss says, "What have you bought?" Justified it. Just a few. Okay.
For sure, Tom does.
I mean, can I skip to the next question? Are you asked to justify the expense of it in terms of dollars and cents, or are you asked to explain, are people using it and is it providing any value? Show of hands for the latter. I want value, less focus on expense. Okay, that's interesting. All right. Well, then that tells me we can fly through some of this. Any vendor worth their salt, which I would argue, hopefully we are one of them, can provide things like asset management and can explain ROI in a dollars and cents level. And so in our case, we have a service called Avalytics. And really, it's our brand name for asset management. And at risk of getting a little bit salesy, what that is our ability to go in and especially in terms of communication technology and presentation technology, inventory everything you have across all of your properties, explain to you what you have in terms of vendors, in terms of functionality, and then leverage that especially in larger companies, leverage those products against each other and get volume discount pricing and get critical spare inventory and negotiate extended contracts, service agreements.
Proactively tell you when end of life is near.
Exactly. Allow you to anticipate obsolescence, or if you have $150,000 worth of assets in one building that you're about to move out of because it's on lease, we can talk proactively about how to manage those assets best. We can also take all of those assets and at an interface level, make sure that your users, your internal clients, and maybe even your external clients have the same experience with every room that they go to across your campuses. We also have what we call refresh, which allows you to take your costs and instead of capital up front, you've got understood and expected expenses every year, and then you re-up your technology at the end of 3 years and eliminate obsolescence.
And we often think of this, we know it's valuable. We have clients who use it, and we know that they benefit from this type of spreadsheet fashion information. But in many ways, it's the easiest thing we can offer you, all right? Because it's counting and it's being methodical and it's included in our service packages.
It is. You should be able to ask us about your assets, and we should know. And that is the easy part. I think that a company that you work with should provide that to you, and so we do. And just some simple examples. There's a large company with thousands of employees across hundreds of buildings doing important work, keeping people healthy. And several years ago, we began this with them. We found 54% more assets than they thought they had. And then we were able to tell them how disparate their assets were across brands. And we were able to show them how different their interfaces were across all the different spaces in their rooms. And so we were able to quantify their user experience and blah, 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 right?
Well, it's amazing how many times someone in a different department will simply walk into Best Buy, use the company credit card, purchase some technology, and it sits in a closet. So, hi, your smiles, you're resonating with that, aren't you?
And don't feel bad, you'd be amazed how common that is. In the case of that particular group, we eliminated $140,000 worth of rental expenses every year because they were renting equipment that they already had and didn't know it. And so we were able to reduce that down to just a couple of events a year that they had at an off-campus location. They were big blowouts, so that expense remains, but $140,000 other expense just fell off the table immediately. So that's the easy stuff. And I don't want to spend our 15 minutes talking about that because it's easy. I want you to talk to your BDM about it. You can talk to me after this presentation. I think that the value is something above just the box and what it does. And the value is above how much you paid for it. Is that fair?
Absolutely. We have some other business functions listed up here. These are the types of objectives many of our clients bring to us. We don't just want to reduce travel. We actually want to retain our employees. We want to have better acquisition of new employees. We want to create more synergy and a feeling of community among our remote, or we call them virtual employees. These become a little more difficult to track with some of your typical metrics, right? And I think that's where we'd like to go now. Is that fair?
Yeah. Employee retention support. Where are you? Real-time fulfillment.
Tell MSF here.
Do what?
I can tell Market Share Financial here if you want to.
And then I'll jump over to Roche.
For example, let me give you a quick story. We have a client that we're working with right now. This particular client had 2 business objectives. Now, granted, the first time we went to speak with them, we had to have a little conversation, but we boiled it down to 2. One was to reduce travel expenses. They had 4 annual meetings, and they wanted to take it to 2 and conduct 2 virtually. How many of you have that kind of a goal, right? Okay, very common. Easy for us to help them establish benchmarks, easy for us to help identify champions and gather that kind of data, put together those kinds of reports. Their second objective was perhaps a little more difficult, very fascinating to me, but they have a recruitment class, and every year they bring in new employees. They typically hold 1 meeting a year where they bring them into a setting like this and they provide some education, and then they send them out across the country. And then they bring them back a year later. And they wonder why 70% don't show up the second time. all right, because they're given their iPad and their desktop or their laptop or whatever, and they're said go and do good things. So because of the way virtual technology can work, at our particular service, we call it Join, you can establish very frequent touch points through what we call co-spaces. And if any of this is intriguing, please step over to the booth and talk to us later. But these co-spaces enable these recruitment classes to stay connected to one another. And it allows this particular organization to offer additional learning moments on a monthly basis. These touch points we are measuring. We're qualitatively establishing a survey where we can talk to recruitment classmates. We don't have a lot of benchmark data yet, but we hope to be gathering that this year. A unique metric.
So there's saving money, paying less for something, there's quality of life.
Enhancement of employee retention.
There's also making more money. And they're not the same measurement. Saving money and making more money aren't the same always. An example, and I'm removing clients' names and changing the stories to protect the innocent here. So in this particular client, I'm going to say that they sell buildings. They don't sell buildings. What they sell is very large things that are expensive and complicated, and by no means are they portable. So what they used to do is find their clients out in the country and then convince them to get on a plane and fly to this building, to see this building, to figure out if they wanted to spend 7 figures on this building. Well, the people that have the buying power at that level are not the same people that you're going to convince to get on a plane to come to you. It just didn't happen. Maybe it happened once ever, but it didn't happen. And so we use technology to run cameras through the building, right, to explain the technology, and then we shipped out video conferencing components to these high-dollar people's locations so that they could witness in a testimonial fashion this building. And the first time we did it, the first person bought the building, and then the next, and then the next. And now this client, they're saving money, sure, because they don't have to pay these people to fly, but they couldn't get them to fly in the first place. They were now making tons of money, and that's fairly sexy in their case. I mean, they were pretty thrilled about that.
Do you want to tell Lily's story?
What's up?
Lily's story? Do you want to do that one or not?
Yeah, I'm going to do one more example. And again, I'm going to change everything to protect the innocent here. We're going to go with razor blades in this example. They don't make razor blades, but another very large client that we work with, that's one of my favorite clients. They're all my favorite, but this one's up there too. We're going to say they make razor blades, right? And if you know, like Gillette, there's a Mach 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And how they make their razor blades, they make them in a lab, and they shave people, and they figure out if they work, and they decide that they work, and then they get a patent for the razor blade. And then we're going to use round numbers here, but we're going to say that they have 10 years to sell this razor blade before the patent runs out. And then who's a competitor? Schick makes a Mach 6, and then all their revenue opportunity is gone. Well, if it takes them a year and a half to bone up their sales force to sell the Mach 5, and they have 10 years to sell it, and they sell billions of dollars worth of Mach 5s, they've left some fraction of $1 billion on the table while they're sitting there trying to go to market. So every day you can shore up the uptime of that market was millions and millions of dollars. And so how much detail should I get into on the technology on that?
Well,
yeah. So the point is we used a combination of video collaboration and presentation so that they could storyboard together how they're going to go to market on this razor blade with real testimonial data from clients that were tested on, bringing in experts from around the world, virtually and not physically. And they were able to, within the first several months, they were saving on expenses millions of dollars, but then approaching billions of dollars by crunching down that cycle. So again, so to get back to the point here, we're talking about saving money, but I think that's the easy part. I think recognizing these opportunities is where you're using technology at the right way. And just to tie it in one step further, I think any vendor worth their salt, you could go to our competitors, I don't recommend you do that, and if they're worth a darn, they can accomplish that thing. The question is, can they accomplish this thing? Can they think at that level? And do they challenge you to think at that level? And if they don't, then you just call us back. And I'm not a salesperson, but I just wanted to get that out there.
And I think that really sums up what we're trying to say here, is that the technology is more than a piece of equipment. It's a means to an end. It has potential to change a particular business culture. It has potential to transform the way you do something into something that positions you better against your own competitors in 2015. One more point I know that we wanted to make has to do with the notion that many people are not surprised to learn that we have R&D devoted to innovative technology. Our partners are reflected here. What you may not realize is that we also have considerable resources and R&D committed to helping our clients better embrace the technology that they currently have. I'm going to pick on you, Tom, because I talked to you earlier. And this gentleman mentioned that he discovered many of his admin pool, I'm going to say, spending maybe 3 hours trying to figure out a particular virtual collaboration tool. And with his assistance, he could bring that down to 10 minutes or so. And we're finding that the more easily we allow others to use the technology, the more likely they are to actually embrace it. And unless you're embracing it, you're not going to establish any type of return on your investment. Lots of reasons why people don't embrace technology. We can have those kinds of conversations. We have a Lean Six Sigma black belt on staff, a cognitive psychologist on staff. We like to establish those baselines, have those conversations, figure out how we can perhaps assist.
This became a little more salesy than I even intended. So what I'd like to do is just sort of wrap it up a little bit and then open it up for questions. But if I can impart anything, Anya, it's that the saving money part is the easy part. I want you to depend on us to find the next level of how to use this stuff to change the business. I'm going to pick on Tom again. Tom, I'm not going to, you can ask him where he works, but they outsourced, stop me if I get this wrong, but they outsourced facilities, right? And you just heard that Tom worked in facilities, and Tom's new job is to get these people connected to each other faster, right? That means to me that companies, and his companies, no slouch, are finding the value at the next level. They decided that group can take care of getting something inexpensively, that they weren't going to go to them to get the value, that the value that they needed to spend their energy on their full-time employees was that adoption and embracing of the technology to make a difference in their work life. So I can tell you, because we just had our all-company meeting yesterday, that especially on the sales side, we're tasked with being your trusted advisor. So I want you to depend on us to try to get you to the next level in whatever it is that you do. And maybe you don't even know what you need. So work with your salesperson, work with me to try to figure out what that is and make a difference at the core rather than save a few bucks on a projector or a TV. That's the easy part. Depend on us for that, but take that for granted. Move on to the hard part. Are you adopting it? Are you really using it? Are your coworkers embracing it?
I think that's it, Braden.
Are you with me on this? All right.
Actually, I'm hoping for a more intimate setting, so if any of you want to come up and just chit chat, that's great. It's harder to make that happen.
And then, are there any questions? Anything we can sort of pontificate on? Do we miss anything obvious? Were you looking for the light bulb? I recognize this was broad, but that's okay. All right.
Enjoy.